Good evening, everyone. I'm a little bit early here for tonight's live event, but it always takes a few minutes to get everything set up. So I just need to make sure that it's on both pages, and so give me a second. Bear with me. You get to look at nothing, right? Let's see. Okay. All right. Pin this here. Go over here. And let's see. Are we here? No, we're not on here yet. So let's refresh this baby. It's going to be a fun night tonight. I've picked out what I'm going to read to you, and they're new pieces. This is not here yet. Let's see. Why is this not? It should be on both pages. Okay. I should be streaming. I'm not sure why this is not streaming on here. Hi, Kathy. It's good to see you. I'm a little bit early. I'm here. I'm trying to see if I can get this on both pages. I don't see it on my personal page, and I'm not sure why. Guess I can share it. Okay. It's the other way to do it, right? So it's kind of exciting to be back here again. I have lots of fun things to do tonight. I have a bunch of giveaways, including a couple of small tote bags and a couple of signed books and some Kindle copies of books. So I know a lot of my readers read Kindles, and I do also. I find it's just handier, to read an ebook than to carry a book around. And the great thing about ebooks is the fact that you can switch back and forth. If you find that you're just not getting into a book and you're at the doctor's office, you can always grab another one. So I love that about Kindle books or any ebooks, not just Kindle. I can't understand why this thing is not going here. Why is it not sharing out? So strange. Stay with me for just a moment. I'm sorry if this is super boring. This is why I come on early, because I know these things happen. Let's see. If this does it. Okay, it's on here now. All right. I don't really know why one works and the other one doesn't. And, but I guess it is what it is, right? Let's see now. Let me see if I can get over here. Switch back. I hate the way Facebook did this. They to make a comment on my author page, I have to switch my profile. And then if I want to make a comment on my personal page, I have to switch back to my personal profile. So it's like kind of can be a little bit of a pain in the neck, but okay. Right, I see this is on here twice. Facebook, why are you doing this to me? Let's see. Let's go over here and see this thread. So, okay, I see that we have a a live thread here that's going on. So let me say good evening to everyone. Hi, Kathy. It's good to see you here. And B, hi. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Kathy. You've been sick. You know, one good thing about technology is that you can be home sick in bed and still have some communication with friends, huh? So I hope you feel better. Hi, Robin. It's always good to see you. And Pam, hi. Yes, I am early. I always come on about 15 minutes early, usually, because you never know what technology issues you're going to have to deal with. And that was kind of like earlier tonight, I just couldn't um, get both of them to show up, because I'm broadcasting on two channels, Facebook and Facebook author page. Hi, Marcia. It's good to see you. I'm so glad so many people made it. It's hot in Mobile. It's beautiful here in Florida. Honestly, this is our best weather. Fall has come to Florida and it's absolutely gorgeous. The sky was so blue today. It was just almost hurt your eyes blue. And the it was probably about 82 maybe is the high for the day, and the sun was just beautiful, so it was like perfect day. And yesterday was the same. Hi, Diane. It's good to see you here. And Christina, Amy Newman. Hi, it's good to see you, Amy. I'm glad you made it. You know, um, let's see. Diane Dennis Bailey. I'm trying to think. Have you been at one of my lives before? I'm not sure. But welcome to this one. I picked some fun. Tonight I'm going to talk about When I Last Saw You. That has to be way, way up on my favorite scale because it's a book written about grandparents that I never knew. So, I'd heard all these family stories and they were passed down. And my mom so many times told me stories about when she was a kid and what happened and her dad and her mom. And her dad was quite a scoundrel. I mean, he was not a very nice person. And, maybe I should be ashamed to admit that they were actually related to me, but I got my mom's genes. And she got her mom's. So it's all good. um, but it was a really interesting book to write because I started with some personal information and then I started to research everything. So it's really a book that combined a lot of research as well as personal knowledge of the people. And it's interesting because I did never meet my grandparents, so I had no preconceived notion of what they were like or anything else. But I heard my mother's stories and my aunt's stories, and you just know she never she didn't really know what happened to some of her brothers. There were actually 11 kids in my mom's family. Diane said, "Oh, yes, I have been on some of your lives and watched replay on the ones I couldn't make." Oh, you're Renee's sister. I thought, I'm saying that Dennis Simons was a familiar name, and so I'm saying, it seems like kind of familiar, but I'm glad to see that. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I got to talk to you today. Um, Heidi said it's 76 here in Atlanta. I bet it's beautiful, isn't it, Heidi? You can see we're just about getting dusky now. It's you can tell fall is coming because it gets dark early now, but it's been really great. This is our time of year. It's just the pool is warm enough to go in the water during the day if you want to, and it's just beautiful. There's like very low humidity, which is unusual for Florida. Um, and it's just been really, really great to, see it come with you. Um, so it's, back to the book. And this is one, I think everybody's probably seen the cover of it. I'll be giving away a signed copy of this tonight. This is When I Last Saw You. And if you see that mountain scene, that road and everything, it really looks like that up there. It's unbelievable. It's so wooded. And I remember when we went to visit my aunt, when we were kids, my mother had one sister that she was in touch with. And we'd go to visit my aunt. Hi, Deanne. Are you out of Facebook jail now? I know they had you curtailed there for a while. Pam said it's been really windy today, but not too cold. Oh, great. Yes, it is. I'm not ready. um, yeah, I so we'd go to visit my aunt up in the country, up in West Virginia, and it really was the way I portray it in the book. And at that time, when I was a little girl, my aunt still lived way up in the what they called the hollow. It's a hollow road carved out of the mountain, and was really, you'd go up this dirt road, and it ran off of the cement road. There was a cement road, and then all of a sudden there'd be a road that was like a little graveled, and then it was dirt. And as you went up the mountain, there were little houses built alongside the mountain, and no one owned the property, and no one really. Sometimes people moved away and they just left the house. They didn't, it was just that kind of a thing. And if there was an empty house and no one was living in it, you were free to go live in it. It was that kind of area. It was different. Colleen Rose, hi, welcome. I'm glad to see you here. And Wendy Spoon, they just took, oh, they wasn't, you weren't in jail. They just took away all my top fan badges. Oh, boo, boo hiss. I'll tell you, it's, you love technology and you hate it at the same time. So, it's hi Rose. It's good to see you here. Um, yeah, Pam said, love West Virginia. Great hiking. It's beautiful, beautiful country. Honestly, I took some pictures when we went there. We went up there to see the old homestead, and it's not standing anymore. The only thing standing is the well. The well was still there. And when I was a kid, I remembered how they drew water from the well. And oh my gosh, it was the best water you ever tasted in your life. It was icy cold, even in the hottest part of summer. It was really cold and just delicious, just pure. You can't buy bottled water that tastes like that. But, my mom and my aunt were close, but there were so many brothers that they really didn't know where they had gone to. And my mom so often said, gee, I wonder where Everett is, or I wonder where Dalford is. And I wonder whatever became, I wonder if he became, this or that he wanted to be. And what happened was I was writing, this is a very interesting story. I was writing The Fault Between Us, which was published after this book. And I got to a certain point in The Fault Between Us, and I said, oh, you know what? I don't feel comfortable writing this because the woman that's the main protagonist in that book is living in the early 1900s. And I said, I don't, I'm very into getting into my character. When I create a character, I live and breathe that character. I really do. I have to think like that character thinks, because then I can make the story sound really genuine and full. I can give it true emotion. And I said, I'm not sure I can think like a woman from the early 1900s. So I kind of set that book aside. And you know what happens when you do that? Then you're like, oh, now what? So I started thinking, what would I like to write about? And I thought, I want to write about something that I feel good and familiar about. And I thought, oh, I never told my mom's story. And it's such an interesting story. So I said, I think I'll write that. And I started writing. And then I realized just when I was near the end of it, I said, you know what? I had personal experience with the way my mom thought and the things her mother did and the experiences she went through. So that was the early 1900s. So I went back to the full, I said, if I wrote this, I can write the character in The Fault Between Us, because I came to understand how she would think. And there is a vast difference in the way someone thinks. Hi, Virgie. It's good to see you here. There's a vast difference in the way a woman today thinks and a woman from the early 1900s thinks. And the reason why is you have to look back and realize that women had virtually no rights, no rights. I mean, in doing the research, I found stories of, in one case, where a woman's husband hit her with a 2x4 board and she tried to divorce him, and the judge would not grant a divorce because he said he only did it once. I mean, women had virtually no rights, and they didn't own property. They were so hamstrung. I mean, they couldn't have really good jobs or a way to make a living. And so once that got into my head that if I know it from my mother's family, then I could write it about the girl in The Fault Between Us, which I really have to get that out and read it for you one of these nights because it's such an interesting story. That's another one that the research on it was just fantastic. I just got so into it. Hi, Betsy Martin, Mitchell, and Dana Wright. Hi, how are you? Jan, hi, how are you? It's good to see everyone here. I'm always glad when we have a great turnout for these. Just let's see if this is over here as well. Just trying to. I'm not even sure. I'm on my other page. Okay. Trying to see if this is. Let's see it. Okay. Just gonna have to trust that it's working, right? But I think it is, and I think we'll catch that. It's funny when you're doing a video or something and the phone starts ringing. It's an interruption you can't help. You can't avoid them off. Hi, Robin. It's good to see you here. And Tanya, wow, it's crazy to live that way. Yeah, can you imagine, Tanya? It really was. Heidi said, I'm wishing for wonderful. I'm loving it. It should be finishing this week. That is such a fun book. It is such a fun book. Around Christmas time, I always try to get them to do a sale on Wishing for Wonderful around Christmas time because it's a story that makes you believe in all the magic of Christmas and everything else. You could say that's a book for Christmas or Valentine's Day or anything, but it's just amazing, just so much fun. It's not intense like some of my other books, but it's just really, really fun. When I Last Saw You is intense because the situation itself was intense. So it's very different, how the two books are so different. But sometimes hi Juanita, I'm so glad to see you. Sometimes when I write one book that's like very heavy, then it's fun to write something that's a little lighter. So I go back and forth, and I've done kind of both styles, I guess. Hi, Julie. It's good from Iowa. All right. How's your weather out there, Julie? Is it getting cold yet? Yeah. So the weather here is just awesome. Everything is good. For those of you who have been following the saga of my back, it seems to be doing much, much better. And I'm getting out and walking a little bit now. So I'm really glad about that, outside walking. I started wearing my tracker again, except that I forgot to charge it. So I don't have it on right now. But I started wearing my fitness tracker. So I'm going up little by little. First, my goal was 3,000 steps, and now it's 5,000 steps. And what I used to do was about 10,000 steps. So, hi, Jamie. It's good to see you here. And Mary Funk, hi. Julie Novak said it's 58 today. Woo, that's a little chilly. When it's 58, we think it's winter. I thought today I'm going to read from, and I have to get over here to open it up. I picked 2 excerpts from When I Last Saw You because it's a story told in a dual timeline. It's told first it's told one in like it's a contemporary side, but the contemporary side is like the 1960s. And then you go back in time to the early 1900s because that's how the timeline fit together. But in 1960s, Margaret is looking for her lost brothers and sisters, and she's I'm sorry. Hi, Wendy. It's good to see you. And Dana. Oh, 85 in Texas. Um, she's looking for her lost siblings. Her husband has passed away, and she's left with a considerable estate. I say in the book she had everything she needed and nothing she wanted. And what she wanted was the love of a family. They never had children. So she has no one. She has this estate and no one to leave it to. So she hires a detective and starts to search for her siblings. So I'm going to read you one excerpt from Margaret's side of the story, and then I'll read you another excerpt, which is from the story that goes back in time. And both of these I tried to pick ones that would be super interesting and kind of show you the feel of the story, if you will. And here's a really funny sidebar. When I name characters, I go through, especially main characters, I go through a lot of naming and renaming. Hi, Connie. It's good to see you. I saw your message. I just haven't gotten back to you yet. You know, um, yeah, I will send you the book plates. You know, send you a signed book plate for each of your books. But oops, sorry. Hi, Jenny. It's good to see you. Um, Hi, Camber. It's good to see you here. I found the event. I just finished this book a couple of days ago. Look forward to hearing more backstory. I was saying, Camber, this is a story written about grandparents that I never knew. I had bits and pieces of the personal side of the story that I had learned from my mother. And then I did a lot of research on the rest of the story and the time and the events and the location and how, my grandfather actually was an electrician. He was one of the first in the industry. And Connie, no, I'm not frozen. I don't think I'm frozen. Not yet. um, I hope it's not. I'm still seeing it live. Are you on my author page? I think you have to be on my author page to see it live. I think. I'm not sure if it's live on both. Must be no. It's the internet. Um, Hi, Lori. Good to see you. So it was a story that was really interesting because I had such personal insight into the events that happened. And then when you add the personal insight to the research element, it really gave the story a lot of depth. Um, yeah, he was a trailblazer, but he was also a scoundrel, a cad, a terrible person. Um, but I never knew him. As I said, it was like an interesting adventure. I knew my mother's stories of him. Hi, Rhonda. It's good to see you again. And my mom used to say he was the meanest man that ever lived. I mean, can you imagine? And that's his daughter that would be saying that. And she said when he came home on weekends, because apparently he worked at, in Charleston, and they lived in the country up in the Hollow. And she said when he came home on weekends, kids had to like huddle up and sit against the wall and like draw their feet up so that nobody tripped him or anything. He was just like such a terrible, terrible person. And you wonder how somebody falls in love with him and marries him to begin with. But I was saying about when I named characters. Well, I knew what his name was, but I didn't know my grandmother's name because my mother used to say everyone called her Kudge, which was just like a nickname, but that wasn't her real name. So I kept trying different names until I found one that was right, and I called her Eliza in the book. And when I started doing the research, I found the marriage certificate of my grandfather and grandmother, and her name actually was Eliza. It was oh, Eliza Palmer. Yeah, So I thought that was a really interesting thing. That was her middle name. Okay, now I'm just gonna reach down here and get this other file. I have to close one to get the other. So this is the beginning of the book. In the beginning of the book, you meet Margaret, and you find out that she's just gone through her husband's files, and um, this is she's trying to resolve the issue of the um, estate and what she should do with it. And she thinks, well, maybe he had some charity he wanted to give a certain amount to or something. And she started searching through the files in his desk. And she found a folder that she couldn't understand. It was a folder that had back from the 1940s, early 1940s. And it was a folder that contained receipts from a detective agency. And she was so mystified because she said, well, why would he be using that? He was a lawyer and he did use investigative services, but he would never have had that receipt at home and he wouldn't have had that file buried. So she's wondering now what was behind this? What was he up to? So she's she had lost a baby. I'm giving you a little bit of backstory here. She lost a baby, and after she lost the baby, they couldn't have children, and she was so lonely, and that was the most terrible year of her life. So what I'm picking up here is she's been thinking about that. So looking for answers. Once the memory of that terrible year settled in Margaret's heart, it grew larger and more vivid. She thought back on how night after night she and Albert had climbed into bed with their bodies turned away one from the other and a wall of silence between them. She cried until there were no more tears left, but couldn't remember him shedding a single tear. At times she thought it was because he believed it unmanly to cry. Now she had to wonder. When things were at their worst, she reached out to him, tried to make him understand why having a child was so important. She told him things she'd never spoken of before, explained how being separated from her brothers and sisters had caused an emptiness inside her soul, an emptiness that could only be filled with a family of her own. He'd taken her in his arms, held her face to his, and said he was her family. Then he swore, come what may, he'd always be there for her. Later on, he'd ask why the family broke apart as they did, but that truth wasn't Margaret's to tell. She said only that times were hard, and after her daddy disappeared, her mama did what she thought was right. He eyed her suspiciously, then turned away, saying he found it hard to believe anyone could think of sending children off on their own was right. While she was struggling to move from day to day, he'd stood his ground and hidden away whatever it was he needed to keep secret. On their wedding day, they'd sworn to love one another for better or for worse. She'd kept that promise and stayed faithful through the worst. Had he done the same? Earlier, Margaret felt hungry. Now the thought of food nauseated her. She left the can of soup sitting on the counter and pulled a brandy snifter from the cupboard. Pouring a full inch of cognac into the glass, she swirled it as she'd seen Albert do, then tipped the glass to her mouth and drank. It was the first brandy she'd had in years, decades maybe. Albert had enjoyed a nightly cognac, but she'd never found pleasure in it until now. The heady brown liquid was sweet and satisfying. It eased the fluttering in her chest. She took another sip, and then another. When the glass was empty, she refilled it and carried it into his office. This was where he'd hidden those invoices. If there was anything more to find, this is where it would be. She slid a notepaper into the telephone directory to mark her place, then closed the book and placed it on the credenza. It was too late to call anyone now. She'd have to continue tomorrow. Bateman seemed to be a family name, so it stood to reason that the person who owned the detective agency was a Bateman. Sooner or later, she'd find them. Although she'd started her search hoping to discover some charity, organization, or person Albert might have wanted to be the next beneficiary of his estate, now she would be content to learn the truth about Albert himself. If through all this she found nothing, she'd name a beneficiary of her own choosing. A children's hospital, perhaps, or better yet, an adoption agency, a charity to help women with broken hearts find a family. Taking another sip of brandy, Margaret returned to the task at hand. Tonight she would go through the one remaining drawer, and tomorrow search the credenza and bookshelf. She opened the small drawer and started sorting through a jumble of rubber bands and paper clips. Behind the box of pencils, she found a stack of notepads with H.A. McCutcheon printed at the top. 1,000 times he used those same notepads to leave her notes. Nothing personal, just reminders to do something. Pick up the dry cleaning, pay the paper boy, have the car washed. At times, the notes had been a source of aggravation, and she grumbled about him treating her like a servant. Now she'd give anything for just one more note signed with his scrawling A. The thought of never again seeing one of those notes, of never having anyone remind her of anything, was almost overwhelming. Fighting to hold back the tears, she downed a swig of brandy and dropped the notepads into the wastebasket. She'd be better off without all those blank pages reminding her of how empty her life had become. With the notepads gone from the drawer, Margaret spied something she hadn't noticed before: a packet of business cards banded together. The top card from the trucking company they'd used when they moved into this house. She lifted the packet onto the desk, and as she did so, the dry rubber band snapped, sending a spray of cards across the desk. She spotted it right away: a business card from Bateman Investigative Services. It read Thomas H. Bateman, licensed, bonded, and insured. The street address and telephone number on the card appeared to be the same as the invoices. Taking no chances, Margaret checked, and they were the same. She now had his full name, but little else. Setting Bateman's card on the side of the desk, she began to shuffle through the others: an electrician, a barber, cleaning services, 2 plumbers, tradesmen he'd dealt with years ago, nothing of any use. Seeing no value in these, she swept her hand across the desk, brushing the pile of cards into the wastebasket. Her elbow hit Bateman's card and knocked it to the floor. When she bent to retrieve it, she saw the handwritten phone number on the back side. Realizing this number was not the same as the one she'd called earlier, ignited a spark of hope. She glanced at the clock. 10:30. Too late to call. Or was it? With the need to know if this was what she'd been looking for scratching at her brain, she reasoned that if it were an office, no one would answer anyway, and if it was Bateman's home, she'd just hang up and say nothing. In either case, she'd know if this was a working number. Her plan was to hang up was quickly forgotten. Thomas Bateman, she said. I'm sorry. I skipped a lot. Pushing past the trepidation that had settled in her chest, she dialed the number and waited. On the 9th ring, a man answered. Her plan to hang up was forgotten. Thomas Bateman, she asked. Yeah, who's this? The Thomas Bateman who owns the Bateman Investigative Services Company? Used to. I retired 5 years ago. What's this about? My name's Margaret Rose McCutcheon. You did some work for my husband back in 44, and I was... Stop right there. If you're looking to hire a detective, get somebody else. I'm retired. I'm not really looking to hire a detective. I just want to find out. It's damn near 11 o'clock, lady. I'm not interested in what you want. I told you I'm retired. But if you'll just listen to... There was a click and he was gone. Even though Thomas Bateman hadn't been willing to hear her out tonight, Margaret felt strangely optimistic about tomorrow. She now knew who the mysterious Mr. Bateman was and where to find him. She lifted the snifter, drained the glass, and started toward the bedroom. So you have a little bit of an idea about Margaret, right? Let's see. I'm just going to jump back and just answer a couple of comments, and then I'm going to come back and tell you a little bit from Eliza's um, side of the story. Hi, everybody here is wonderful. Hi, Jacqueline Fox. It's good to see you. And Carlene, hi, how are you? Thank you so much. She said she loves my books. I never get tired of hearing it. Hi, Wilna. It's good to see you here. And Susan Harrington. It's such a pleasure to see everyone. Oh, thank you so much, Connie. Yeah, my grandfather was very cold-hearted, very cold-hearted. He was very self-centered, self a person who's self-centered is really a terrible person. They don't think they're being as terrible as they are. Hi, Alexis. It's good to see you. Alexis and I share a Crosby name. And Rhonda, I've said hi. Yeah, he was very cold-hearted. A person who's self-centered very often cannot see that they're doing anything wrong. They feel that there's a justification for what they're doing, whatever their justification might be, but they're doing it for themselves. So it's always interesting to see that kind of a person. And I think our world is really made up of a lot of good people and a few bad people. And I think that to write a story, you have to be realistic about the people that you're writing about. And he honestly was a terrible person. My grandmother was an amazing, strong, powerful woman who she started life, she had a cleft lip, and she was beautiful outside of that, really beautiful woman. But she was very shy because of her cleft lip. And so that's how she ended up with my grandfather. At least that's what my mom said. And she was as sweet as she could be and loved her children with all her heart. But, well, you'll see in this next part that I'm going to read to you. This next one is from later. It's not the very beginning of the second half, the other storyline. But this is part way in because I've read a few pieces that were the start of it. And I told how they met and got married and everything, and how he got a job as an electrician working in Charleston, and she went there for a little while, and it was a small little, he promised her the world, and it ended up being a really tiny apartment with people that were rowdy, and she was used to the country and people that went to church and everything, and that life was just not for her. So she went back and lived in the house in Cold Creek, and he would come home on weekends, supposedly, and then work during the week in Charleston. And it seemed like there was one baby after another, and I don't think she had a whole lot of say about it. Okay. A week before Margaret Rose was born, Margaret Rose is the fourth child to be born. So fourth or fifth. And the child before her was Dewey. That really was one of my uncle's names that I didn't know. I never knew him, but I've heard my mother talk about him. So this is like a week before Margaret Rose was born. The company Martin, who's the husband, had been with for 10 years, lost the electrical installation contract they'd counted on. They laid off 9 men and stopped paying for overtime. Martin was one of the few who still had a job, but it meant he'd be expected to do more work with no extra pay. For 6 weeks straight, he had to work a full day on Saturday and a half day on Sunday, which put him in a mood blacker than a coal miner's face. During that time, he wrote just one letter to Eliza. He was working his ass off and didn't know when he'd have a chance to come home. Instead of asking her or the new baby excuse me, I'm getting tied up here. Instead of asking about her or the new baby, he wrote 3 paragraphs about how he had half a mind to report the company to the Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union. He then signed it Love Martin and enclosed money enough for her to buy groceries. When he finally made it back to Cold Creek, Margaret Rose was over a month old and already starting to smile. Instead of hurrying back to take a peek at his new daughter, he stomped around the kitchen complaining about the unfairness of his situation and how hard he had to work. Having grown accustomed to the angry outbursts which could come or go in the blink of an eye, Eliza figured he needed a bit of time to simmer down and let go of the anger. While he went about on a lazy ass boss telling him what to do, she busied herself about the kitchen. Every now and again she gave a nod, and it was enough to prove she was listening, but not enough to stoke the fire of his anger. That tirade went on for over an hour before he appeared to calm down to where Lisa thought she could talk to him. Margaret Rose was born on Dewey's birthday, she said pleasantly. She's a feisty little thing, pretty as a picture, and has your eyes. If this means you're going to be asking me for more money, you can forget it, Martin snapped. Without that overtime, I've got nothing more to give. He walked back to the bedroom, took a quick look inside the cradle, then came back and told Eliza he was going out to the smokehouse and left. As he stomped out the door, an ominous shiver crawled up her spine. She could usually sense the depth of his moods, but this time she misjudged him. The anger was still there, hidden just below his skin and waiting to explode. When Martin returned to the house, the sky was dark. The wind had picked up, and the echo of thunder rolled across the mountain. A storm was coming. Eliza was sure of it. She was uncertain whether it would come from the sky or her husband, but fearing the worst, she fed the children early and tucked them into bed. He came through the door, red-eyed and wobbly as a new colt, staggered into the kitchen, set a jug of moonshine on the table, and plopped down in the chair. Under most circumstances, Eliza found it easier to give in to him than argue. She'd let him have his way and wait for the mood to change. She'd seen the ugliness that came with his drinking, and that was one thing she couldn't tolerate. I told you not to bring that in here, she said. If you've got to drink, do it out by the smokehouse. Martin narrowed his eyes and glared at her. You've got no right to tell me what I can or can't do in my own house. I'll drink wherever I damn well please. Seeing the fire in his eyes, she should have held her tongue and waited for him to sober up before arguing the point, but she didn't. This isn't your house, she said angrily. It's my mama's. He slammed his fist against the table so hard that the jug bounced off and splattered on the floor. He then pulled himself up from the chair and stood. Like hell it is, he shouted. I'm the one paying the bills. I'm the one feeding you and these kids. As far as I'm concerned, that means it's my house. Eliza saw the bits of spittle that flew from his mouth and peppered the table, which only made her more determined. Just because you're paying the bills doesn't change the fact that it's still. Yeah, it does. It changes everything. Your mom is dead and in the ground, and you don't have a nickel to your name. Without me, you and those kids got nothing. The truth of his words hit home, and Eliza's temper flared as it never had before. Do you think that's something to be proud of? Providing for your family doesn't make you some kind of a hero. You're only doing what most men do. Martin crossed the room in 3 long strides, grabbed hold of her hair, and yanked her head back. With his face hovering over hers, he screamed a string of threats and obscenities that was far worse than anything she'd ever heard before. He was still going strong when Dewey ran into the room. Mama, come quick. Margaret Rose is breathing funny. Not giving up on his hold on Eliza, Martin glared at the boy and yelled, Get out of here. Dewey stood motionless for a few seconds, then started towards his daddy with fists flailing. Let Mama go, he screamed. In a movement that was so quick it would forever be a blur in Eliza's mind, Martin released his hold on her, picked up Dewey, and hurled him across the room. She heard the splintering of bone when he hit the wall. Now freed, she ran to the child and held him to her chest. His arm hung at an odd angle. But instead of crying out, he pleaded, "Mama, you gotta come see about Margaret Rose." The door slammed. Without looking up, Eliza knew Martin was gone. He was on his way back to the smokehouse. Wrapping her arm around Dewey's shoulder, she guided him back toward the bedroom. Before crossing the threshold, she heard Margaret Rose struggling. The baby's breath was heavy and labored. It had the raspy sound of something caught in her airway. When Eliza saw the tiny chest rising and falling so quickly, she scooped the baby from the cradle and carried her to the kitchen. Dewey followed along with a worried expression that was way beyond his years. "Mama, is Margaret Rose going to be all right?" There was no mention of the arm that had to be hurting. "I think so, Dewey. And if she is, it will be because you saved her life." Eliza never went to bed that night. Once she had a kettle of water steaming atop the stove, she held the baby in her arms and stood rubbing circles across the tiny back. As the sun crested the horizon, the baby's breathing slowed and she dropped off to sleep. The fragile forgiveness. After the incident with Dewey, it seemed as though Martin truly had changed for the better. At first, Eliza had her doubts. They'd been through this several times before, and while he'd be on his best behavior for a few weeks, sometimes months, he eventually went back to what she'd become to believe was his true nature. This time was different. This time, he felt as though he actually wanted to spend time with the children. Without fail, he returned to Cold Creek every weekend, and often he brought some little gift for Eliza or one of the children. Although it was a 4-mile walk from the train station, he'd come in smiling and call out for the kids. Once they were clustered around him, he'd reach into his pocket, pull out a bag of candy, hand it to Eliza, and say, "Look what I bought my best girl." If it wasn't candy for her, it was a few marbles or a whittling knife for one of the boys. Such a drastic change baffled the children at first, and if you looked closely, you could see a thin layer of apprehension hidden beneath their smiles. This was especially true of the older boys, Oliver and Ben Rowland. Wary though they might have been, they knew enough not to let it show. When their daddy called, they came, and no matter what little trinket he pulled from his pocket, they'd carry on as if it were the very thing they'd been wishing for. Dewey was yet another story. His resentment ran deep as a river. If he spotted Martin nearing the front gate or caught the sound of his voice, he'd head for the woods behind their backyard and be gone for the remainder of the day. 3 Saturdays in a row he missed dinner, and the only thing that kept Martin from taking a switch to him was the plaster cast that was still on his arm. Am I going on too long for everybody? Um, I'm trying to, I don't think I have too much more here. On the few occasions when Martin's mood turned sour, it was almost always because of Dewey. Twice he tried to talk some sense into the boy, but came away angrier than before. Talking to him is the same as hollering down a well, he said, a waste of time. Determined to hold on to this newfound peace at any cost, Eliza massaged her fingers across the tightness in Martin's back. "Be patient with him," she said. "He's just a child, and he's frightened. Give him time. He'll get over it." "He'd better," Martin snapped and turned away. Shortly after he left for Charleston, Eliza called Dewey to come and sit with her as she pushed back and forth in the swing with Margaret Rose in her lap. Scrambling onto the swing, he asked, "Can I hold her?" "Only if you promise to listen to what I have to say." "I always listen," he replied defensively. "Not always," she said, and slid the baby onto his lap. "When your daddy tried to explain that he felt bad about what happened, you heard, but you didn't really listen." Dewey's smile faded. "What am I supposed to do? I forgive him." "No, you only said you forgave him, but that's not the same as forgiving him in here." Eliza touched her finger to her chest. "I know your daddy's got his faults, but he really is trying. Can't you see that?" Dewey nodded reluctantly. "I'm trying to." "Don't you think maybe you could try a little bit harder?" If you did, he'd be in a good mood all the time and everybody's life would be a whole lot happier. You wouldn't just be doing it for your daddy, you'd be doing it for me and Margaret Rose and all of us. Dewey hesitated a moment, then keeping his eyes on the baby, mumbled, "Okay," and gave another nod. 2 weeks later, when Martin returned home and saw Dewey standing with the other boys ready to greet him, he gave a wide open grin and handed Dewey the peppermint stick that he'd intended to give Eliza. From that point on, things seemed to get better. On his next visit, Martin brought Dewey a folding knife that was nicer than what he'd given the older boys. Dewey, in turn, thanked him profusely. Mimicking what he'd seen his brothers do, he hugged his daddy's neck and said it was precisely the thing he'd been wishing for. Giving a quick glance, it would appear all was well. But if you took time to study the boy's expression, you could almost see the resentment simmering beneath his skin. Now, I'm going to leave it there because I feel like I'm reading such a lot that you guys are probably tired of it. Maybe you want to ask some questions or something. So, you know, um, oh, thank you so much, everybody. So good. Hi, Leach. It's good to see you. And hi, Lisa Ann Phillips. It's great to see you here in Wilna. And Jan, thank you, Jan. Yeah, it's such, I'll tell you, when I go back and I read these stories, I really can remember the feelings that I had when I wrote them. And that's the kind of guy he was. He could be very charming, very debonair and charming, and, you know, much more sophisticated than my poor grandmother who loved family and children and church and all that. And whereas he had different interests, I guess. He loved her, or at least he did at the start. And um, I think that he was an interesting character to write about. And when I found pictures of them, and I didn't find pictures of them both at the same age. I found pictures of my grandmother when she was a little older, but I did find one picture of him when he was like, I think he was a young man, but he would swear he looks like he's 16. But no, I think he's, maybe in his 20s or 30s. And he didn't look like anything special or anything, but I guess, he had a way. So, anybody have any questions about their life or about, how I wrote the book or anything like that? There was a lot of research. I went back and I did um, a lot of family research, and it's funny. I got bits and pieces from other members of my family, cousins that I know, that these cousins come from. This one sister that my mom was still close with, and we still stay in touch with them. My aunt and my uncle actually was a coal miner. And has anyone read Jubilee's Journey? I'm going to have to do that one soon because it's so good. Um, there's a coal mining family in that story, and that is taken directly. I mean, that's exactly the way I remember my uncle when we used to go to visit them. He'd come home from the coal mine, and his skin would be black as my dress is, and he would just have those two white eyes, like this, where they wear goggles when they're down there. But that's it. Um, Oh, yes, I think you'd enjoy it, B. And you know what? This book is on Amazon has the Kindle version on sale for 99 cents right now. Um, so it's really, if you haven't read it, I think it's a really good book to read. I think it shows you, hi, Elaine, it's good to see you here. Wendy Spoon said, with family research, did you find that family was open and honest, or did they try to hide from? No, actually, very open and honest. It was mutual grandparents, so what could they say? It's like they had their mothers remembering, and their mothers said they said their mother absolutely hated the father. I mean, she just hated him with a passion. And she's such a church going woman. I didn't think she was capable of hating anyone. But she said he was the meanest man on earth. I mean, so I got it from a few different sources, and we went back up there, and I remember the house from when I was a kid, but when we went back up there, the house that I remember belonged to my aunt and uncle, the one that was a coal miner. And oh, have fun, Dee, with your movie. Um, do you give your family the books when they're published? Yes, usually. you know, were you triggered at all writing this? Um, I thought it brought it back a lot of memories. Yes, yes. Um, Lisa Ann said, I love family research. I've heard a lot about my maternal grandmother and her sisters. They all apparently had a lot of mental issues and led interesting lives. Oh, that is interesting. I'd love to hear about them. Um, yeah, I just remembered the stories that my mother told, and then when I went back and I actually did find stories about it, and he worked on putting in my mother would say one small thing, and then I would say, okay, and then I would go back and see if the research, like she said, he was working on the first installation of street lighting in Charleston, West Virginia, and so I went back and the time frame matched and everything. So when I started putting all the pieces together, I was able to find I was able to create that world that they lived in. I knew the personalities from what my mother said and what my cousin said and everything like that. And then I was able to create the world that they lived in through research and knowing what actually was at that time. And when you hear what he does later in the book, oh my gosh, he runs off and leaves her with 7 children, to feed and no money at all. So it's very interesting how she tracks him down, and that is a true story. The part how she tracks him down, and he has to step up to the plate, so to speak. Um, yeah, it is. It's funny. Almost every one of my books started with some kind of a true story. I think it's that when I hear a story that's true, and it just, I don't write that story per se, but oh, Rose, you haven't started reading any of my books. You're really missing it. I think you would enjoy them, because it's the kind of story that My theory is when I'm reading a book, if I don't get into the main character by the time I'm like 50 pages in, forget it. I'm not going to like that book because I have to care about the character. If you don't care about the character, it's just like you're reading words on paper. But when you care about the character, you're invested in that book. And so I try in every book to make it a character that you're really going to care about. And sometimes it's one character, sometimes it's another one totally. So, I think that's an important element. So I know everybody is waiting to hear some of these delicious names and this is really great because I saw some of the people here tonight. So, um, the signed copy of When I Last Saw You, Camber Woodworth DeRosier, I don't know if I'm saying it right, is the winner of that book. So, Camber, message me mention the title that you won and message me with your mailing address. So, and there's more prizes, so don't go away. And on the, where am I? Beyond Betrayal, the winner of Beyond Betrayal is Wilna Wheeler. Wilna, message me with your mailing address and the name of the book that you want. Just mention the name of it and I'll know because I have it on my list here. Then I have a fun tote bag for Heidi Rose 11. Now, which way do I go to make so you can see it? There. It's a Betty Lee Crosby tote bag. It's just a little tote that you can carry your books around or you can put any good thing in there. Books, candy bar, etc. So I'm giving away one copy of When I Last Saw You. and the print, and one print copy of Beyond Betrayal. If you haven't read this, it's a really great book to read. This one, again, every book is based on some measure of truth. And there's a sailing incident in here that I wrote based on the weekend sailing trip that I did with my sister, Jerry. So all of them have, and I went through the loss of a spouse, so I was able to relate to the emotions that were in there. And I put this down before I forget. Now, several other people won. I don't see her here, so she's not here. You have to be present to win. So, Marcia Rydell Kramer, you won your choice of an ebook, and you can choose Cracks in the Sidewalk, Emily Gone, or The Fault Between Us, an ebook. And Karen Chandler, I didn't see Karen here. You hear Karen? Oh, yes, she is. Duh. Karen, you also won your choice of an ebook. And the choices are Cracks in the Sidewalk, Emily Gone, or The Fault Between Us. I tried to pick all ones that were interesting and that hopefully people haven't read. You can, if you haven't read When I Last Saw You, and you'd rather have that ebook, I'll be happy to send you that one also. So you can choose. Also, and by the way, Jamie Caldwell and Kathy Rossler, I hope you both read When I Last Saw. No, you're in Beyond Betrayal. I hope you both read Beyond Betrayal because I have a nice surprise for you in there. Made it in the book. Oh, let's see. Yeah. Let's see. I have two other giveaways that the people didn't show up, so I'm going to give them to someone else. That they are your choice of the 3 ebooks. So let's see. Who's here? Colleen Rose, have you ever read one of my books and would you like to? Yeah, did you read that Beyond Betrayal, Jamie? You've got to read it because you're a character in the book. So, you'll have to grab a Kindle copy and read it. And if anybody wants a signed book, I forgot to mention this. If anyone wants a signed book, you can order them directly from my website. And I'll post a link at the bottom of this thread. It's BetteLeeCrosby.com. It's like really hard. Just remember it's Betty with an E. Bette Lee Lee Crosby CROSBY.com. And there's no caps, no spaces, And when you get there, at the top banner, it says online store, and you go there. And when you put your information in, then I sign the book and send, it goes out to you. I don't get that order, it doesn't come into me, but when it comes in, they tell me sign this book, and I can sign the book and send it out to you. So let's see. Heidi, you won a bag. Did you hear that? One of the little tote bags. Let's see who else. Connie Rosenbaum said, I'm trying. If you have trouble with it, just let me know. You just have to make sure that you scroll all the way to the bottom when you're ordering a book of the store and make sure all your information is in, all that stuff. But it goes through a bank. So, it's very reputable. Let's see. So, Christina, did you comment on the thread on my page? I don't remember. I tried to answer everybody. I just pulled names out of a hat, if you will. Hi, Rena. It's good to see you tonight. Thank you, Kathy. She said everyone should read these. Let's see. Oh, Kathy, you read Beyond Betrayal. I just read The Fault Between Us. Did you like that one? I loved writing that. It was so interesting. I'll talk about that one again in the foreseeable future because it's so interesting, the story about writing it, And it was funny because that's one that I set aside. And Karen, do you know you won? What did you win? Oh, your choice of an ebook between Emily Gahn, um, Cracks in the Sidewalk, or The Fault Between Us. And if you already have those three books, and you would prefer another one or something, just let me know and I'll work it out with you. Because I do have some of them on hand. Um, Wendy Spoon, I didn't comment on any of your posts. Wendy, I'm going to do another one. Let's see, when is the calendar set? I'm trying to do them about every 2 weeks or so because it's just so darn much fun. That's why I love doing this. I'm such a ham. I love reading the books. I really and truly do. So let's see. Today is 22nd. I'm trying to see what. I think it will be November 19th. I think. I'm sticking with generally. Oh no, it will be probably November 12th. Yeah, November 12th. Let me put that on my calendar. Okay, it's on my calendar. Now it's good. November 12th, I'll be doing another one. And the book I'm going to read through that time, I'm trying to tie it in and read from something that's on sale because that way, if somebody likes the story and they want to go buy it, it's very inexpensive to buy a Kindle copy. Usually they make it about 99 cents. They just say it's going to be on sale. So I don't know yet, but it will either be 99 cents or $1.99. I know. So November 12th. And the book I'm going to be reading from then is Passing Through Perfect. Oh, that's so good. Um, the the main character in that book, is a young Black man living in Alabama in the 1940s. And boy, I'll tell you, talk about pulling your heartstrings. You will love Benjamin Church. I promise you that. It's so good. Missy Marie, who were the winners? Let's see. Camber Woodworth de Rossier won the signed copy of When I Last Saw You. Marcia Rydell Kramer won her choice of the 3 ebooks. Karen Chandler won her choice of the 3 ebooks. Wilna Wheeler won the signed copy of Beyond Betrayal. Heidi Rose won one of my little tote bags. Oh, see, I'm off screen now. Sorry about that. Gotta figure. This when on here, everything is reversed in the camera that I look at here, where we're broadcasting from. So that's why I don't realize it, and I'm sliding right off to the screen. So those were the winners. Okay. But if you didn't win this time, come back the next time because and I do try not to have the same winners. I try to have, like, if you won something within the past 6 months, chances are probably, unless, we have a real small turnout or something. Oh, hi, Camber. You're quite welcome. And I think you'll really enjoy this book. You haven't read it yet, I hope. If for chance someone has won a book and they've read it, just write to me and tell me I've got 25 books, so I can always substitute another one. There's so many that have really interesting stories to them. And I just decided that I want to be here and I want to, it was a long time that I didn't get on Facebook Live and I didn't do live chats and everything because I was really having a problem with my back. And as many as you know, I had back surgery and then it did not go well. And so I've had subsequent different things that I've done to get back to where I am, and I'm still not back to where I am because sitting for any great length of time. I mean, it used to be that, believe me, I would spend 10 or 12 hours at my computer in a day, and I just can't do that right now. But I said, one thing I can do is I can continue to work at a slower pace than frantic, um, and I can socialize more with my friends because this is something I really enjoy. I honestly enjoy it. I know a lot of people say I hate social media and everything. I don't. I love it. It's really a chance. I feel like it's very personal, and when I see your name here, I recognize you. I recognize you from you know from previous times that you've been here. And I get so I know, oh, who comes from Texas and, who has a big family. And I know Heidi Rose is the husband's name. And, I just, oh, that's such a great idea, Susan. You'll grab this one while it's on sale because it's really a good book. I think you'll enjoy it. Oh, there's some asshole on here again. I'll tell you, excuse my language, but why is it that these idiots can do um, this Majavi Lilo? He's telling, please inbox me to everybody. Just, you know what? I wanna, how am I gonna do this? Um, he's, I can't seem to get to where I can hide. Okay, wait. Hide. Let's see here. Block him. I blocked him, so I'm trying to see. I don't know if they'll take everything of the on there. The report is coming. Isn't it terrible that okay, I blocked him and I reported him. So, that drives me crazy. Maybe I ought to write a book about spammers. But and it's different ones. You block one, and I swear his cousin pops up or something. But when you see them just saying something like this to everybody, just don't answer them. I mean, they're idiots, and let's not give him the courtesy of acknowledging it. Honestly, it's just very frustrating. You know, um, Facebook does stupid things like, geez, they took off her top fan badges, but they do something that makes no sense whatsoever. And then somebody like this gets through. It just boggles my mind. I just don't understand it. And like as I said before, when I go from one site to the other site, whether I'm Betty Lee Crosby or I'm Betty Lee Crosby, author Betty Lee Crosby, I have to sign out over to a different profile. I mean, geez, their pages are linked. They know I'm the same person, but it is what it is. Um, okay, so Colleen Rose, I'm substituting here because a couple of Colleen Rose, is it? Ooh, jeez, this guy has clogged up my file here, clogged up my pages. Um, trying to remove it, but it takes forever to remove them. Um, it banned him from the stream, so hopefully that'll take him out. Okay. I banned him from the stream, so hopefully that will get rid of him. Comments removed by moderator. Hooray! Let's hear it for technology. Yeah. Um, so there was another one that I was going to do. Darn it. So, Wendy said, I haven't read this one yet. Lane said, Passing Through Perfect was excellent. Yeah. And that was another book that had so much heart in it, and it really took some doing to get to where you could feel the emotions of a young Black man living in Alabama and dealing with prejudice, and it was true of that era. I mean, I know aunts, not that I lived in that era or lived through that, but I remember how I had great aunts that were very prejudiced, and shame on them, but they didn't think they were doing anything wrong. They thought they thought that's just the way it was. So they didn't see. Oh, Christina Constantine. Okay, that's the name I was looking for. So please, okay. So one last time. I know Camber has already heard that she won. Marcia Rydell Kramer, she won Choice of Her ebook. Karen Chandler won Choice of Her ebook. And I'm back off the page again. Wilna Wheeler won the print copy of Beyond Betrayal. Heidi Rose won the tote bag. Colleen Rose won her choice of the ebook for Cracks in the Sidewalk, Emily Gone, or The Fault Between Us. Christine Constantine, the same. You won your choice of Cracks in the Sidewalk, Emily Gone, or The Fault Between Us. And you know what? Don't ask me to recommend because I picked 3 books that I really like a lot. Cracks in the Sidewalk also was based on a true story. So everything, every book that I've written is pretty much has some element of truth in it. It's, I write about the times the way they really were. And I love writing, like, I don't know if you consider it historical or not. I'll write a lot about anywhere from the early 1900s to through to about 1970. I think Emily Gone is set in the 1970s. And I write about that because I really love the times. And I think it's a more fun era for a writer to deal with because there wasn't as much technology. So problems could not be solved with a cell phone call or, something like that. It was, they had to count on themselves for doing it. Let's see. Wilma said, how many books have I written? 25, 26, I think it is now. Yeah. Christina said, love Cracks in the Sidewalk. Okay. If you want an ebook, message me with your ebook address and you'll get an email from me that will give you a code to get pick up your free book. And if you want a print book, message me with the title of the book. Well, I have the titles, but with your mailing address. Amy said, I have Beyond Betrayal on my nightstand waiting for me. Yeah, that's a good book. And it's really this. I think anyone who's gone through, whether it's a divorce or whether it's the loss of a husband, but anyone who's gone through that kind of an experience and had to rebuild their life almost from scratch will find a lot to identify with in that book. Honestly, I think there is. There's a lot of emotion, and that's probably more contemporary than many of my books. But the story itself really required it to. I kind of take each story and say, okay, when does this need to be set? Like Emily Gone could not have been set present day, or it couldn't have been set further back because the situation as it was had to be in that time frame when there was not enough technology to um, to track down a kidnapper instantly or no instantly or put up roadblocks or anything. It was so different, and yet it was contemporary in the fact that women could come and go as they wanted to, and so it wasn't like being in the early 1900s, you know and so each story has a time period that it belongs into. And I think you find the right time period, and that's kind of like what the how the story unfolds. Um, let's see, what else? Any other questions? Missy, if you look back, if you want to read back, I've listed the names of the winners on here a number of times. Um, Wendy Sue, I said I haven't read that one yet. Um, This is really fun. I love coming here and I love doing this. It's just so much fun. I love hearing from everyone. Oh, Jan has said I have the loft being delivered tomorrow. You know what? I am totally out of stock on the loft. That's one that I absolutely have to tell Dick to reorder a stock of because I do keep some books here. We built a special closet in the hall for books, and I have these shelves and they're all stacked up, and I keep them basically for people when I do giveaways and things like that. So with 25 books, it starts to pile up that you have, just need space. So we ended at first I had them all over the place, and then we had to build shelves into that whole closet. And so I have like a book thing in there with stacks of books. But the loft I'm totally out of right now. So it's a good time for me to reorder it. You reminded me. Susan, you just got a new tablet for your birthday. That's so nice. Oh, that's so much fun. Let's see, Tanya. I was wondering when I saw that. Yeah, I know Tanya, the scammer. I did. You know what, Karen? I did delete him. I blocked him. I banned him from the thread, and I reported him, and I blocked him. So he's totally out. If you look up, you'll see comment removed by moderator. That's all the things he put on there, and I blocked him as soon as I saw it. Thanks, Diane. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know that. I'll tell you that could be a true story again. Lisa, hi. It's so good to see you. Terrorist. Woman said he's a terrorist. Alexa said, I just love your books. I'm now going to be reading Beyond Betrayal. I'm coming to Florida this week and we'll be reading the book on the plane. Oh, cool. Where in Florida are you going? Thank you, Tanya. Yeah. Um, um, I've been meaning to read one of your older books called Wishing for Wonderful Life. Oh, this is the perfect season. You know what? Read it in December. I'll tell you, it's such a good story. It's so different than all my other books. It's so much fun. I will read from that one hopefully in December because it's just so much fun. It's just such a delightful, whimsical story. It's very light. It's got depth to the story, but it's just so light because the way it's told. But I think you'd enjoy it. Let's see. Oh, Emily, Connie said Emily Gone was my first read of your books. Yeah, that was an interesting book to write too. When I wrote Emily Gone, I wrote all about the music festival, and Dick said, my husband Dick, he read it and he said, "Oh wow, this is so good. It's almost like you were there." And I said, "I was there." And he said, "Get out." So I'm the last person in the world, trust me, that you're going to find at a hippie music festival. I mean, it's just not, possible. First of all, I would have been about 11 years old, I think. But so, and I based it on Woodstock, and I did it from the research that, and there were so many stories about Woodstock all over the place. And Oh, thank you, Alexis. She says she does the book basket for a group I belong to every year, and I make it a point to make sure that one of your books is always in there. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Um, so I'm a terrible tease, when it comes to something like that. So I said to him, "Yeah, I was there," and I'm telling him all these things that I read in the research. Oh, it was awful. It was so crowded, and the music was so loud, and then there were no restrooms. Just one toilet, and the vendors ran out of food, and he said, "You were," and he kept saying to me, "You were at Woodstock." You were at Woodstock? And so finally I couldn't hold it anymore and I started laughing. He said, "You weren't there." So I said, "No, I wasn't." that, that was kind of funny. Um, oh, thank you, Karen. She says, "Emily Gone is probably the best book I have ever read." Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Tanya says, "December is my birthday too." Oh, yeah, it's kind of a anniversary thing, I think, in that book. But and that too is based on when I adopted my dog, my rescue dog. So I tell you, everything has. Oh, you're coming to Miami. Okay, you're quite far south from us. We're in Port St. Lucie. It's probably about probably 3 hours from Miami. I'm guessing 2.5, 3 hours from Miami. We're north of Miami. So, oh, and we go with the first book. Thanks, Susan. Ah, I enjoy how you interact with your readers and love hearing you read from your books. Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate that. It's such fun, honestly. I am such a ham. You know, when I get to the point where I'm reading too much, please tell me because I probably won't know it myself. It's just such fun to do it. I mean, geez, what this is like. This is like visiting a favorite book club. You know, because I'm familiar with a lot of the women, and each time somebody new comes, and I, yeah, what that was good, wasn't it? We watched the Miami game yesterday, the Hurricanes. Oh my gosh, what an ending! My sister was here, and I was spending some time with her, and I joined Dick to finish watching the end of the game, and when I came in, Amy, I'm talking to Amy now. When I came in, I root for the Miami Hurricanes and Miami Dolphins. Dolphins the pro and Hurricanes is the university. Um, when I came in, Dick had been watching the game, and it was 17-7 in favor of Clemson. And I said, "No, no," because they lost last week, Miami. I said, "Oh no, are they losing again?" So I sat down to watch, and I swear the whole thing took a whole turn, and they ended up winning the game in double overtime. It was very, hi, Karina. It's good to see you. Hi, Bambi. It's good to see you. I'm glad you finally made it. Guess what, Bambi? It's a good thing you made it because you were one of the people that won the bag, this little tote bag. So you want a tote bag like this, Bambi. You know, I made it. I really want people to come and I want them to enjoy themselves and have a good time here and everything because I don't want it to be only about winning prizes as much as I love giving things away. I want it also to be about, just enjoying the evening with me, and I really do enjoy it. And I think the more people we have here, the more fun it is. And just interacting with everybody is really a big treat for me. So I'm glad you made it. So always comment if you're here and you're just listening or something. Just leave a comment, even if you just say, "Hi, I'm here." So this way I know you're here. But that's why I say you must be present to win. Because if you care enough to come here, then you're in the group of people that really should win things. And I try to make it so that different people win at different times. So and usually I will say if you've won something like within the last 6 months, you know, it's time to let somebody else win something. And, I think it's only fair. So, um, but everybody has a chance. Um, yeah, you'll like wishing for wonderful, I think, Tanya. Does anyone have any questions that I didn't answer? Oh, thank you, Bambi. As I said, I love doing it. Let's see what else is going on in my life. Not too much that's really exciting. It's exciting for me that I'm getting back to work and that I'm getting back to walking and things like that. I had in my back. I had an ablation. It was where they burn the ends of the nerves off, and they said that they can do another one in about 6 months, and that's like a booster, and that will make it even better. So I'm feeling very positive about it. Um, I used to have my goal was 10,000 steps, and I wish I would have done it in smaller increments. So throughout the day, rather than I'd go for a real long walk in the morning and then sometimes in the late afternoon, um, when I finish working. But I should have gotten up from the computer more, and I think my back wouldn't have given me the problem it did. But after the surgery, really struggled. It was not a successful surgery at all. But the ablation has helped a lot, because I had nerve pain down my back and down my leg, you know. And the more I sit, the worse it got. So they're going to do another one, I think, in maybe January or February. And that's supposed to make it even better. It used to be that my goal was 10,000 steps a day. And then now I have my goal is 5,000 a day. I did first it was 3 and I did that. And so now I'm working towards 5,000 steps a day. So it's baby steps. It takes time. I try not to be impatient with myself, but believe me, it's not an easy task, you know. How many awards did we win for Emily Gone? I think about 4 or 5. That won a lot of awards. Um, I know it won the Royal Palm Literary Award for gold medal for best women's fiction, and I think it won the FAPA Award for best fiction. I'm trying to think. I don't remember. I don't remember all of them, to tell you the truth. I have to go back and take a look. Oh, I think it won an International Book of the Year award, International Book Award for women's fiction, which that's a biggie. So it won quite a few awards. Yeah, that's what I like, telling the stories of what's going on too. Everyone's seen my pool chair that I got for my birthday. That was a big surprise. But it came in a box that was so huge that there was just no way Dick could hide it. So I got it about a week before my birthday. He'd ordered it. But I mean, that box was almost as tall as he is, definitely wider. Yeah, let's see. Anything else? Anyone have a question? Yeah, that's what I think, Karen. Each goal, and these are doable goals, and I'm trying to be a little more realistic, just like I'm back to working, but I'm pacing myself. I'm not doing like 12 hours a day like I used to. I mean, it used to be that I would go for a long walk in the morning, and then really I would be at this computer like all day long, all day. I might get up and go get an iced coffee or something, and then I'd come back, and maybe I'd have a sandwich, and then I'd come back. But I'd really be at the computer all day long. You know, I don't want to say that even the dog got sick of me working so much, but do you know, Sugar will not come in my office anymore. She, as a matter of fact, well, what I've been doing is, because this is like a more confined area, and more what should I say, kind of restrictive, if you will. I don't have a place to, it's a tiny desk. I don't have a place under here to really put my feet up or anything. So a lot of times I'm broadcasting now from my laptop and then I'm reading from this big computer here. So a lot of times when I'm writing, I take my laptop and I go in the family room and I sit there and we have a really nice little table in there and it's very pleasant and I can open the door and it's like being outside. Um, and sometimes I will sit outside too. Um, and it's gotten so that Sugar really does not want me on the computer, and if she sees me open the laptop, she gets so mad, she leaves the room, and she'll I'll be in the family room, and then from the family room, there's a hallway that goes through the main living room and back into the bedroom, and, she will leave the family room, get down off the sofa even, and leave the family room and walk out, and halfway where I'm sitting, I can see that hallway. And she'll get halfway through that hallway, and then she'll look back like this, like, "I warned you, mom." And then she'll turn around and keep going. And she goes in the floor of my closet. She goes and sits down in the floor of my closet. So, um, I don't have any plans to come to Oklahoma anytime soon, Jamie. But if you have a book club group or anything and you want a personal get together, I'd love to join you. If you're reading one of my books, you can, you know, um, invite me as a guest and I can do it virtually. Yeah, she has spunk. I mean, she really is a funny little duck. I mean, she makes up her mind what she wants and she doesn't want. But she does. I mean, it's like you would think that what's the difference if I have the she doesn't mind if I'm reading on the Kindle. That's okay. But only if I turn off all the sound on the Kindle. She because it's a fire. So if she hears the ping of mail or something, same thing. She'll leave the room. She's like, no, this sounds like work. I'm out of here. And she goes in the floor of my closet and lays on where the shoes are. I don't think it could be all that comfortable. I finally put a little bed in there for her in the closet. But she's funny. Yeah. You know, Lori, if you want to hear about one of my dogs, uh, Wishing for Wonderful actually is in part the story of me adopting my Bichon that I had before Sugar. Katie, her name was. She was absolute sweetheart. Oh my gosh, she was such a sweetheart. When I um, when I read from that book, and I definitely will schedule it for this December. When I read from that book, I'm going to bring a picture of and post it here on Facebook of what Katie looked like when I approached the adoption agency because see we didn't she was it wasn't an adoption agency around here. I had lost my dog that I had when Dick and I got married. I had Brandy for she was the predecessor to Katie. I had her for 18 years and so when I lost her, oh my god, I was heartbroken. And so I said I don't want to buy another dog, but I'll adopt a dog and give it a good home. So I started looking and I started looking at places like Small Paws, and one spot led to another, led to another, led to another. And that's how I found Katie. And they sent me this picture of her, and she was only about 8 pounds. And supposedly she was about 10 months old. And she was the sorriest looking little thing you've ever seen. And so by the time I picked her up, though, she had been shaved and neutered. So she didn't look too much better after that. She was really a sad looking little pup. But the picture of her that where she's standing in the grass and her adoption picture is just so I've kept that all these years. She's just so precious. So I'll definitely post that. Yeah, I know. That's what my Sugar does too. She's like, if she does, sees me doing, if she sees me with the Kindle, she'll go, you know, she's funny. Yeah, they do have, and Bambi, I've had three Bichons, and all three of them totally different personalities. Katie was my little angel. I mean, no matter what I did, I used to make calendars with her pictures on them all the time. And I would do my whole year of calendars. And back then I used paper calendar I hung on the wall. And I would set up a shooting to shoot her in all these different things. I'd have her in a little yellow raincoat and boots for April showers, and for springtime she'd be sitting in next to a flower pot or something. But and Christmas, I would have her with all the Christmas decorations around, and have her in like some kind of a Christmas dress. And she would just sit there, and if I said stay and I have to go answer the door or something, she would just stay and until I came back, until I told her, okay, it's okay to get down. But she was my little do nothing wrong angel. Um, but my cat Cuddles did that with books. He would jump on them while I was reading. Yeah, I know. Who's that big ogre on the wall? That's just a painting. It's a um, whoop it. And I just thought it was so beautiful. So it's really just an insignificant painting. We used to have it in a different room, and I put it here. I originally had framed a print here of flowers that was so pretty, but it had a glass on it, and we should have taken it and had it with a no glare glass put on it. But I didn't, and I had this, so I said, "Oh, I think I'll put this in here." Um, because I have a big window here, and I do get glare sometimes on the wall. So, um, Jamie said, "Do I have any fun events coming up?" I don't have a book signing in Oklahoma, but November. What did I say? It was November 12th. November 12th is another Facebook Live, and I'll be doing more giveaways and everything else. And on November 12th, let's see, I'll be reading from Passing Through Perfect. But I might be reading from Beyond Betrayal too. Um, I haven't I haven't been very fair to that book, that I haven't given it as much attention as probably I should have, because it's a new release. But it just came about. The release came about just at a time when I was going through all those back problems. So that's the only reason that it didn't get the attention it deserves. But I'm hoping, yeah, and I'm starting to do a few fun events. I've got something planned up that's a treasure hunt, and hopefully I can pull that together maybe around the first of the year or something. We always need something in the beginning of the year, because after Christmas and after the holidays, it's like kind of there's a letdown, and you want something fun to do. So hopefully I'll be able to do that then. Everybody, by the way, follow my newsletter if you don't already. Subscribe to it. Be sure to subscribe to it. Again, you just go to bettyleecrosby.com, and there'll I think there's a thing up in the banner, let's connect or something like that. And then if you do the drop down menu there, then it will say subscribe to my newsletter or something. And you get a free copy of, when you subscribe, you get a free copy of the book, The Storyteller's Secrets. And that's a neat little download book. It tells kind of the backstory of a lot of the books I've written. So it's kind of fun. But what I was going to say is, I always put in the newsletter anything really fun, interesting, and if there's going to be any sales, or I also usually tell what books I'm reading, and what my opinion was. Oh, Lord said he was adopted as a kitten from a shelter. He chose me. Oh, that's so sweet. When we got Sugar, I looked for a rescue dog, and I just couldn't find one. I mean, I really looked a lot, and I couldn't find one that, I just couldn't. I don't know. Not No, I don't make the stockings, Heidi. My sister made them. So I don't know when we'll put the tree. Usually we don't put the tree up until like the day after Thanksgiving. The Friday after Thanksgiving is always a good time to put the trees up. Although this year we're not putting up a tree that's as big. We're putting up a skinnier tree because we put a wall unit in our living room. I'll have to, walk around with the camera one day and do a video. I'll do it around the holidays and show you all around the house. I don't know if that's really interesting to anybody, but it's a way to share. And It's amazing how many ornaments I can get on one tree because I've had them for years and years, and they all have sentimental value. Someone gave me this or someone gave me that, so it's usually a fun thing. But well, listen, I guess I've about stayed by time limit, um, oh, thank you, Bambi. I think it's great meat. Um, yeah, Russell's jealous of my phone too. I know. Isn't it funny how dog and cats and you know the cat does that to the cat called not for her not to knock it out of my hand. Yeah. Um, Sugar's a riot. I mean, you think it's like subtle, but it's not subtle. I mean, she makes it perfectly clear that she's really mad about that. And if I'm standing near the computer, but I haven't opened it yet, she watches me. She sits on the sofa and watches me like this. And she just waits. And the minute I open it up, the laptop, she jumps down and she walks right past me. And she's got that tail that sticks up in the air anyway, and she wiggles her butt back and forth as she's walking out, kind of like very indignant, and her head up and her tail bouncing back and forth. And then she stops halfway through and looks back and gives me a scowl. lets me know that she is not pleased with this. So she's funny. And the funny thing is, she just started this about a year and a half ago. Before that, she spent the whole day in my office under my desk. So, oh, the stream broke for a minute. And that's definitely a sign I've overstayed my welcome. But maybe hi, Kim, it's good to see you here. Maybe she equates the fact that, I stopped walking her because of the bad back with the fact that maybe said she's got dogitude. It's so true. I love that comment. Absolutely love it. But maybe she equates one with the other. I don't know. Go figure. But we'll have to do when I do wishing for wonderful. I'm definitely going to have to do some fun dog stories. I think I'm losing you here. This thing is fading in and out. So I better say goodnight while I still have a wire to say it on. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. I had a wonderful time and I hope you did too. And I hope you'll come back and join me again. November 12th, I'll definitely have posted notes up about it and everything. Put stickers on your nose. But join me back here again for another fun evening then. And until then, When I Last Saw You is on sale. And let me know if you have a question or, if you want a signed book, you can get it from my website. If you've already got a book and you need a book plate to put inside with the signed, just let me know and I'll be happy to send it to you. Hi, Debbie. I'm glad you made it. Oh, Karina, thank you so much. You're such a sweetheart. It's so nice to see you here. So I'm going to say good night, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and stay safe, stay healthy. Good night now. Love you guys, and thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.